Welcome back. I want to say thank you to our ET staff and engineers and our amazing mentors who were in the breakout rooms during the design process. I see a lot of activity in those classrooms, which is amazing, but it is now time you can still work. But we have two amazing mentors here. They're going to lead a Q&A for 30 minutes, and it's your opportunity for teachers to get to those keyboards and ask these mentors some questions. They're going to introduce themselves, and then we're going to open the floor to you all for your questions. So I'm going to pass it off to Harper, who is going to lead us off for our Q&A for our EV Day.
Thank you. Just making sure everyone can see the slides. Yes. Okay. So just kicking it off with some introductions. I'm Harper. It's my 4th year as a college mentor for Engineering Tomorrow. Unfortunately last year because I'm graduating, but I am a senior at Bucknell University studying mechanical engineering. Some of my interests in engineering are robotics, engineering design, and systems engineering. And I'm originally from Great Falls, Virginia. So in high school, kind of what got me into engineering in the first place was doing robotics. I did VEX robotics for all 4 years and in middle school, so a couple years before that. It's where I met one of my big mentors who is also actually working for Engineering Tomorrow, Miss Jarrett, if anyone's ever had a session with her. But kind of from robotics, I got into learning about engineering design, getting the hands-on approach. That really led me down the path of choosing engineering rather than just picking, physics or math or something like that. And then alongside that, like I said, I graduated in 2020, have a twin brother, and I also played volleyball all 4 years of high school. So, I think it's really important to balance kind of the academic stuff and engineering stuff with fun. And I'll get into that a little bit too when I talk about college. So like I said, right now I'm in college. I'm almost done, but I've been here for 4 years, and kind of some of the involvement that I've done over the past 4 years, engineering related, is being on the engineering student board at my school, which is basically just acting as communication between the student body and the deans and stuff like that. We plan events. We do this thing called E-Week every week, which is a competition between all of the engineering majors. That's really fun. And then I'm also president of my school's chapter, Society of Women Engineers. So once again, that's kind of just planning events. I had the opportunity to go to the Society of Women Engineers conference this past year and last year, where I got to meet the Boston Dynamics Spot robot, which is featured on my slide there. And then I also TA and tutor and have a couple different jobs related to engineering around campus. But yeah, like I said, it's kind of fun to balance the more fun parts of college and involvement there. So outside of engineering stuff, I am a member of a sorority. I work for the challenge course on campus, and I recently did a couple weeks study abroad over the summer in London and Dublin. So if you have any questions about high school or college or anything like that, feel free to ask, engineering related or not. And then finally, just going into summer and jobs, all throughout high school and my first 2 summers of college, I worked at a summer camp. It's an overnight camp, and I went, from being a cabin counselor to being in charge of a group of staff and kind of gaining some leadership skills there. And then this past summer, I worked at Northrop Grumman Space Systems in Virginia, where I got to work on this really cool project that was designed around cargo delivery to a space station that they're putting around the moon. So if any of you have any questions about, space stuff or internships or anything like that, feel free to ask. And then kind of following my internship, I'm working there full time after I graduate. So I'll be back in Virginia and working for their space system sector. And then a little bonus feature, I got to watch their NG-19 launch at Wallops Island this summer. I was only a couple miles away, so I got a really awesome view. But I'm gonna pass it on. It's enough about me. Introduce our next mentor.
Yeah, hi everybody. My name is Elena. I am a junior at the University of Notre Dame, and I'm majoring in chemical engineering. And I also have a minor in engineering corporate practice, which is essentially just like business and how business can apply to engineering. So some of my main interests within engineering would be consumer goods. So like household products, soap, detergent, razors, any of those things that you use every day. Energy and sustainability, so it's like perfect for this lab in particular, and then also biomedical engineering. So I also wanted to briefly give a background for like what got me interested in engineering. I can definitely talk later more if people have questions about chemical engineering, but really I started doing programs or camps similar to like this one. I have a picture, the very first one is like me in middle school doing like a 3D printing camp. And these just, I think, are really great opportunities to figure out if you like the problem solving process that's like crucial to engineering. So I loved that. And then I eventually kind of moved up to help like lead and teach these later in high school. And that's kind of eventually led me to choosing Notre Dame for engineering. So here are some pictures of different things I've done through my school on campus. The ones on the left are more like engineering oriented. I lead my school's team called ChemiCar. So this is a club where we design a car that's powered entirely by chemical reactions. So we have like a battery, and then we have a reaction that tells the car when to stop. So the two pictures on the left are me and my team doing that, which has been super fun. And then the one in the middle is my friends and I we have a lab that we have to do where we learn how to operate different machines. So we were learning how to work a machine that produces energy there. And then on the right, kind of some more fun pictures. The top right one is the Society of Women Engineers that Harper was talking about. They actually had us go to Ireland. They did a trip there talking about sustainability and different types of energy sources. So that's a picture of me and some friends in Ireland. And then I also this year helped out with my school's team to plan a concert. So we brought Ross Lynch. So if you have like seen Austin and Ally or like Teen Beach Movie, that's us with him there, which was super fun. Then as far as my summers, last summer I also studied abroad in London for a couple of weeks. And while there, I got to travel to other countries in Europe as well, which was super fun. But also I did a course where we learned how to operate a carbon capture plant. So, you know, carbon dioxide is bad for the environment, and there's new technology that can actually take it away from the environment. So that's kind of what we were working on. And then next summer, I have an internship with P&G, and they're a big consumer goods company. So they make all those household products that I was mentioning earlier. So yeah, we're excited to hear any questions you guys have.
So yeah, now that you guys have heard a little bit about us, Monica has asked one question, but feel free to, keep putting them in the chat or coming up to your camera. If that might be a little hard for us to see, but if that's easier. I'm losing my voice, so just a side note there, but so one of the questions that we have is, what are some of the major differences between high school and college? And besides from getting, a lot more say in the classes you're taking and really getting to focus in on a specific topic, like your major in college, I think independence is also a big thing. You're living on your own. For a lot of people, it's the first time living on your own. You're kind of a lot more responsible for maintaining your schedule and keeping up with your work and finding involvement outside of things. It's a lot less structured than high school is. But in some respects, that can be a little bit of a hard transition, but it's also very fun. It gives you a lot more time to, focus on your interests. You're not in class for 7-8 hours a day and then immediately, doing sports or activities or something like that. You get kind of a little bit more time to move around, I guess, and be able to explore your interests.
Yeah, and I'd say another difference too, just with like the classes themselves, is because you do end up picking like a major and you pick like an area that you're interested in studying, you end up having later on like classes with the similar people each time. So like I have a lot of chemical engineers in my major, and we have classes where it's like all of us. And because of that, we're able to get like really close, and you meet a lot of people just through who has similar interests to you, which is really exciting too. And I see another question was just, what advice would you give somebody interested in engineering? And then how do you narrow down the specific field that you want to study? So I would say if you're interested in engineering, doing things like this is already a great exposure. Learning engineering really comes down to a lot of problem solving, regardless of which field you go into. It's a lot of like, here's a problem, how are we going to tackle it? What are the steps that we take? So I think doing things like this, doing research online about the different types, there's so much information online that can give you an idea at which branch of engineering you're interested in. But also when you go to college, a lot of them will have, like Notre Dame has an introduction to engineering course where you learn a little bit about each type. So you don't have to go in knowing 100% I want to do chemical engineering or something. For me, I ended up choosing chemical engineering because I was really interested in chemistry and I was really interested in math. And I think chemical engineering is a really broad branch. Like you could go into energy, you could go into like consumer goods, you could do packaging, you could do so many different things with it. And so that was really exciting to me because I liked how it opened up so many different options.
Yeah, mechanical is also very broad, but kind of in a different direction. You know, there's like space, cars, planes, robotics, all kinds of stuff. And I got, picked mechanical just because I really liked physics and like the hands-on side of doing robotics stuff, but I didn't decide what major I wanted until I was applying into colleges. I didn't even really know what the difference was between all the different engineerings. So, I mean, one thing too to look into is if you're applying to colleges and looking at majors that way, looking at what the specific colleges have is important. A lot of them will have kind of the broader chemical and mechanical and stuff like that. But if you want to look into more specific majors like aerospace engineering or robotics engineering, stuff like that, biomedical, it's sometimes a little more focused into the college. But I think just picking your interests. So, if you're really into chemistry in high school and you want to do the hands-on engineering side of chemistry rather than just being a chemistry major, then you have chemical engineering. If you really like biology, but you want to look more at, prosthetics and stuff like that, then you have biomedical engineering. So, but, also like Elena said, it's a lot of colleges have that like initial introduction to engineering class that kind of also helps you narrow your focus if you're not totally set when you come in. Intern positions for high school grads before college. So location wise, it might be, I can't answer it specifically for like Texas or Pennsylvania, but a lot of big companies will do kind of high school internship programs. And I think the best way to look into that is just to Google engineering internship programs for high school students. And some of them, I think a lot of them are unpaid, but it is a really good experience just to be able to get kind of your toe dipped into engineering. A lot of colleges also have engineering summer programs for, their specific engineering college, which can be really helpful to get some insight into what it's like in a college setting versus, like a workplace setting. But, oh, we got a whole.
Yeah, and I was just gonna also say too, yeah, I see there's a lot of links in the chat for internships. But I think the college programs that Harper was talking about can be really, really great too, because you actually can get experience at a university and that could prepare you to like go to college. And then a lot of people in their summers in between years of college will then do company internships. But either way, any experience that you can get is super valuable.
Any of the schools have any questions? Oh, we got one. Okay. Still from our leaders here, but how do you manage your time between engineering and other activities on campus? So like I said earlier, your schedule is a lot less packed day to day in college, I would say, like classes wise, which gives you a lot of free time to be able to, do clubs after class or before class or on weekends. And it's definitely a transition to get, onto campus and have to start managing all these different things that you want to sign up for and you want to, be involved with. But I think the best way to do it, I'm a big fan of Google Calendar. I put all of my information on there, so it helps me kind of manage my time in that way. But also, having fun but not overcommitting yourself is important. It's fun to sign up for as many things as you can and as many things as you're interested in, and then you can decide from there what you want to continue being involved in, and what you find is a priority for you. But I think another important one is figuring out, what time in the day works best for you to do homework and stuff like that. I'm someone that likes to do it during the day. I try to get my work done before, like in between classes or before classes rather than late at night. Which I think is a big challenge that people have to balance, especially is, homework and getting things submitted on time and stuff like that.
Yeah, I would say the same. I also use Google Calendar a lot, or I also have like an agenda, just making sure you like keep track of like when you have due dates, when you have assignments. Because in college, especially, you'll have a lot of assignments that are like over a longer term. So it's not like, oh, you have homework due tomorrow. It'll be like you have homework due in, a week or 2 weeks, but it's long. So like, how are you going to break that up? So I think it's super helpful to like break it up into little chunks. So I'm going to do, like maybe an hour today, an hour 2 days from now. And so that way you can like take an assignment that might take many, many hours, but it actually isn't that bad if you break it up. And if you do that, then you also have a lot of time for other things that are important to you, like your clubs or just spending time with friends. I think freshman year is your first year in college. It can go either way for people. Either they accidentally spend too much time on like the fun activities and then they're like struggling to pick up with work, or sometimes like what I had is like I would just like, okay, have to get all my work done. You can spend too much time on work, and you need to learn to be like, all right, we got to plan the time out so that way you can take breaks, because both are just equally important parts of the college experience.
For the question about a solar panel breaking, which part was it? Is it the wire or the whole panel? Or is it just not working?
It's the wire, like the wire disconnected from the panel.
Hmm. Um,
I
So
see
in-
Betsy has popped on camera. We have an engineer here to tackle this technical difficulty at Barnabas.
I'm trying to judge from the picture that you sent on my phone. It looks like did it come up off of the actual
Oh.
panel itself in the back?
And like actually like just like came off and everything. Like it disconnected from the back. Yeah.
Okay. So the first thing I would do is see if you have any exposed wire, because that's what you need. You need that wiring to be able to get some of that electricity through it. The next thing I would do is kind of where it looks like it was coming up from the actual panel part itself. I would gently pick up that part, that like silver part, to see if you can reconnect it in there. If you have any electrical tape or something to try to tape it down there, to allow that circuit to be like reconnected, if that makes sense. So try that out. If it doesn't work, I would try another panel if you have extras, or have them work once another team is finished. Maybe they can share their panels between the two. But I would first try to fix those wires. And if you don't see the wires exposed on this, like on the actual wiring, you may have to strip it a little bit, meaning like pull off some of the plastic, the black plastic there, in order to expose the wiring, and then stick it underneath into your solar cell there and use that electrical tape if possible.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah.
all right, so next question about the best way for students to approach designing their electric vehicle. Step one is definitely make sure you get solar panel and wiring and all of that to work. Because that's going to be the most important part, obviously, for getting it to all move together. And then from there, if you're using wheels, make sure that you have wheels that are free spinning, whether you are doing it like a dowel into like a straw or tube of some kind, something like that. Make sure you get kind of the base of it all moving independently and without a ton of friction, and then kind of put all those pieces together. Does that help the approach? Obviously, when it comes to gearing, that you're gonna have to fix those or like put those all together. But yeah, if you guys don't have any questions, we can kind of ask each other some questions. But Elena, what do you think was the most challenging part of transitioning from high school into college, whether that's engineering related or just in general? Or like, what's some good advice for people that might be making that jump?
Well, I think one of the biggest challenges was like what we just talked about, like doing the time management and making sure you balance everything correctly. I think another big transition was just like making sure you take advantage of all the opportunities to meet people. Because I think you're in high school, you know most of the people in your grade, but you go to college, and even if it's a smaller college, but a lot of them are also really big, there's just so many more people. So I think I would recommend go to every single club meeting that sounds even remotely interesting. You don't have to join them all. Just like try it. Go for one meeting. They know that people are going to go for one and then decide from there. They're aware of that. So just sign up for any mailing list you can. Do things like with, any people in your classes, like get their numbers first day, start to build up like as many connections as you can. And I think that's a good way to at least start meeting people and like getting yourself out there and figuring out what you're interested in. What about you?
I completely agree. I think some of the like biggest experiences I've had at school and biggest opportunities I've had are just from kind of reaching out and meeting people and getting involved. I joined Society of Women Engineers because my RA was the president at the time. An RA, for anyone who doesn't know, is basically just like a upperclassman that lives on your freshman hall and kind of like helps with information and stuff like that. But I just like I became friends with her, and that kind of helped lead me into getting more involved with Society of Women Engineers. And eventually, became president. But there's a lot of, unknowns, obviously, when you're jumping from high school to college. And I think just embracing that and, trying as many new things as possible is, the best way to meet people and kind of get past that initial scariness of, such a big transition. But yeah.
I see there's a question like, what is your favorite class? In the chat. And I think this is a hard question because the classes like that you take in engineering, some of them are can be challenging, but like the actual experience is really fun, I think, because you learn a lot. And then also I spend a lot of time working with friends. You form a lot of like study groups. And so even the most challenging classes can sometimes end up being like the most fun experiences. But I think probably my favorite class so far was my Introduction to Chemical Engineering course I took sophomore year. Because that was like very much an introduction to these types of problems where it felt like a riddle. Like we were setting up these equations and trying to figure out, what input do you need here to get an output here, and learning that and then seeing how much we learned throughout the year was really fun. I also think like non-engineering classes have been surprisingly really exciting to me too. I went in, we have to take some required like core classes. So I went in and I was like, okay, I have to take these, but I mainly want to take the engineering ones. But I've loved like some of the philosophy classes I took or econ. Now I'm doing a business minor. So I also recommend taking advantage of those if you can.
Yeah, I'll answer quickly too. One of my favorite ones is a 3D modeling class that we took where we learned the software SolidWorks. If any of you have interacted with that, it's similar to, Fusion 360 and all of those 3D modeling things. But I took a class kind of similar to what Elena was just saying. I took for my arts and humanities requirement, an art class that was like a VR sculpture class. So we all got VR headsets for the class. And then it was kind of combining almost the 3D modeling stuff with art. So we were building sculptures on the computer and then putting them into VR and getting to like walk around and experience that. So I thought that was a really cool kind of crossover application to fulfill my, arts and humanities requirement, but also be able to do something that was still interesting to me.
So I'm going to hop in here to expand that question, ladies. what do you think is the importance of soft skills and teamwork in engineering? Because these students are in the classroom right now, working in teams of 4, building their EVs. What are some tips and some important things that you can take away from those two topics?
Yes.
Yeah, I think, I go, okay. So the kind of senior class that we have to take is called senior design. It's like our culminating experience at the end of our 4 years, and it's working with a client and then a group of students to basically design a product based on their requirements. And that is probably the closest we're going to get to like fully kind of applying what we've learned in these lecture classes and labs and stuff like that into a real world job application. And when you kind of make that transition, there's so much more to engineering and succeeding past college than just, knowing the equations and knowing how to do the math. You have to be able to communicate with a client and a team and stuff like that, and be able to work with everyone. You can't, you're not going to succeed in engineering if you aren't willing to listen to other people's ideas and take inspiration from them. And you also just learn a lot from them. Even if you think you have the best idea for a solution, you could, hear something that you would have never considered, never thought of, just because you didn't have, experience in a certain area. So definitely, work with your teammates. Let everyone give input. It's very important. And it's probably one of the most important tools for succeeding, past just learning about engineering.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think some of those like soft skills, like all those teamwork skills that you learn are really important now, and they only get more and more important. Like right now I have, mainly so many group projects that are due. And I think that learning how to work with other people and adapt to their different types of learning and their different types of working styles is super important. Like as an example, right now, I am somebody who likes to work a lot during the day. Like like Harper, I like to find time in between classes and do everything. But one of my group partners really likes to work at night. She's super busy during the day. She doesn't have time until night. So we have to figure out, okay, well, what are times we can meet together? How can we maybe split up our work so that we can each work individually at our times? I can work during the day, she can work at night, but then we can come together and collaborate and try to talk it out. So, even doing things like that, it's just really important to working as a team.
Well, I want to say thank you to Harper and Elena for leading such a great Q&A session. It is time for everybody to get back into those breakout rooms and continue to build. We will be back for the wrap up at 12:30. And at that time, we would love to see your students present. So teachers in those classrooms for the next 30 minutes, get those groups and those teams ready to roll with maybe a little race. And we'll have some live EV races at the beginning of our wrap up. And again, thank you to Harper and Elena. In the breakout rooms, we'll have our ET staff and engineers along with our mentors. We have Grace and Morgan who are here ready to join you. So you can hop right into those breakout rooms and keep building.